At the moment of filming this video, back in the UK, it's close to Remembrance weekend. On the weekend closest to the 11th of November, we remember those that gave their ultimate sacrifice from the First World War right up to the present day while in service for their country. In cities, towns and villages all over the country, there will be services and wreaths laid at war memorials and cemeteries to remember those that did not return. Over here in the Netherlands, there are 19,600 British and Commonwealth war dead lying in 476 cemeteries, large and small, all over the country, all looked after by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. A few years ago, I began my own act of remembrance by laying flowers at some of the graves in the cemeteries here in the Netherlands over the same weekend as the Remembrance weekend in the UK. For example, last year I laid flowers by all the Royal Tank Regiment fallen at the large British cemetery in Bergen-op-Zoom. This year I thought I'd visit a much smaller location and share my way of remembrance on video. I'm here in the small town of Oudewater, just over 15 kilometres west of Utrecht. In a corner of a civilian graveyard, the War Graves Commission look after the graves of 7 servicemen who lost their lives during World War II. This is the story of who those 7 men were and how they came to be lying here in Oudewater. At 20:48 hours on the 9th of April 1943, Lancaster bomber serial number Echo Delta 502, call sign Whiskey Sierra Victor, named Barbara Mary, from the 9 Squadron RAF, took off from RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire. It was one of 104 Lancasters and 5 Mosquitoes that took part in a night raid on Duisburg. 9 Squadron were one of 2 Lancaster units specialising in heavy precision bombing. Later on in the war, 9 Squadron would become famous for its involvement in the sinking of the German battleship Tirpitz. On board the Lancaster Barbara Mary was her 7 crew. Sergeant William Arthur Barker, RAF Volunteer Reserve, wireless operator and air gunner. At 32 years old, he was the old man of the crew. He was son of Thomas Edmund and Jessie Elizabeth Emma Barker and came from Cromer in Norfolk. Flying Officer Hector Robertson, RAF Volunteer Reserve. He was the navigator. 25-year-old Scotsman, son of Alex and Jane Robertson of Aberdeen in Scotland. Sergeant William Roy Jakeway, RAF Volunteer Reserve, air gunner. At 19 years old, the youngest of the crew. Son of Arthur William Jakeway and stepson of Madge Elsie Jakeway of Barnet, Hertfordshire in England. Warrant Officer Arthur Miles White, Royal New Zealand Air Force. He was the pilot, 23 years old and son of Alfred John and Doris White of Hamilton, Waikato, Auckland in New Zealand. Sergeant Norman Percy Tutt, RAF. He was the flight engineer, 22 years old and son of Percy John and Annie Elizabeth Tutt of Ashford in Kent in England. Flying Officer Graham John Gibbings, RAF Volunteer Reserve. He was the air bomber, just 20 years old and son of Reginald John and Mabel Constant Gibbings of Salisbury, Southern Rhodesia. Flying Officer Newton Bird, RAF Volunteer Reserve, air gunner. His age is not clear, but he was from Rhodesia. This was the crew's 12th mission together since the 1st of March 43. Just think about that for a minute. That 19-year-old lad, William Jakeway, had already flown at least 11 missions for his country in his young life. It was a difficult mission due to thick cloud. The bomber formations broke up and 8 aircraft were shot down, including Barbara Mary on the return journey to England. The aircraft was attacked and shot down by a German night fighter. It crashed in a ball of flames at 23:45 hours in the polder farmland just outside Oudewater, narrowly missing a farmhouse. I'm standing at roughly the spot where the aircraft came down. Today the polder fields have given way to a modern housing estate. This building is on the site of the old farmhouse that the Lancaster narrowly missed. A Mrs. Henny Ive Pole, who lived at the farm at the time where the bomber crashed, described the crash. It was like we were in hell. The flames were bursting over our farm and the sound was louder than a siren. My husband and I both took one of our children out of their beds and took them with us. My nephew took my oldest son downstairs. The Germans showed up and ordered us to show them the route to the wreckage. We told them we were not allowed to be outside during the night, but this time it was their order. Our maid was allowed to stay with the children, who were extremely scared. We had to cross a canal via a wooden plank. The only light we had came from the burning plane. My husband and I both thought that one airman was still alive. We checked his heartbeat, but he seemed to be dead already, like the other 6 crew members. We adopted his grave. His name was Harry Robertson, a 25-year-old young man who just finished his study. He was from Scotland. We are still in touch with his family. The next day, the 7 men were buried at the Protestant cemetery at Oudewater. No one was allowed to be at the ceremony, but the following night, 2 men crossed the canal at the back of the cemetery by boat. When dawn broke the following morning, 7 bouquets of white flowers were shining in the morning sunshine. This small lane at the approximate location of the crash site has been dedicated to the crew of the Lancaster by the people of Oudewater. Okay, I don't know whether that's readable on the video, but it says de Barbara Mary Weg, de Barbara Mary Road. Naam Engelse bommenwerpen, neergestoten met 7 bemanningsleden. Sneeuwruilvaart, 9 april 1943. An on-the-fly translation. The name of the English bomber aircraft that crashed with 7 crew in the Snelrewaard on the 9th of April 1943. So here we are at the graves of the crew of the Barbara Mary, and what I want to do is firstly read a poem especially written for this occasion by Mr. Arthur Cole. A bomber crew of 7, their futures uncertain, 12 missions flown, death-defying incursions. Heroes to a man, Barbara Mary was their muser, not knowing a fate that would tragically ensue. To liberate Europe, it was their ultimate aim, bonded by conflict, with victory to proclaim. Brothers in arms, they fought side by side, an inseparable bond, as together they died. A night raid on Duisburg, their final mission. Thick fog, a nemesis on a flight of attrition. Dispatched to hell by a German night fighter, a raging fireball with no hope of survival. Shrouded in flame, Barbara Mary came to rest. On polder farmland, it was her ultimate bequest. 7 comrades were buried the following day. No one to mourn an uncompassionate enemy. Under cover of darkness, 7 bouquets were laid. Villagers undeterred, they honoured the dead. This day of remembrance, we offer our prayers to 7 lost souls who saved us all from despair. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.